But yeah, let's get into the music a little bit, man. You mentioned a mutual friend earlier I want to chat with you about, and that's Scott Sean White. I'm a huge fan of the songwriter, and if you're a fan of the songwriter, you have to be a fan of Scott Sean White. I mean, this goes hand in hand. I wanted to talk about a little bit from your perspective the impact of Scott on you, not only as a writer but as a human, as an artist. Because Scott he's so unique, and not just in writing, but the fact that he's back and forth between Nashville and Texas a lot. He's doing God knows how many shows a year. Always finds time to write with his his homies like yourself and Helene Cronin and others.
Yeah,
Just what talk about the impact of Scott on you?
man. First of all, Scott is one of my favorite humans, and
Same.
if you know him, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He's just a wonderful human. He's a God fearing Christian man. He's somebody that I look up to as a Christian, and I can't say enough about this guy. I met Scott. Both of us were at this deal called Texas Songwriter U. Just to back up just a little bit, I was there. I went kicking and screaming, man. My manager signed me up for this deal, and I was like, man, we are way above doing songwriter competitions anymore. You know, we had already had 5 or 6 number one songs, and I just felt like, man, that kind of overshadows these younger songwriters that come into something. If somebody's there with 5 or 6 number one songs on Texas radio, it just didn't feel fair to me, if you will. So no ego, no attitude. It just was like, it just didn't feel comfortable to me. But going down there, my manager said something to me that day. He said, hey, I don't need you to go win this thing. I just want you to go Miranda this thing. And if you remember when Miranda was on Nashville Star, she didn't win, but she won. She won. I mean, she went in there in 3rd place or whatever, and
It was actually 6th. She finished 6th.
There you go. So
yeah.
But she won. She was the big deal out of that. And so, my manager, Brian, he said, hey, man, go down there and Miranda this thing. He said, you have a way of making connections and getting the right connections out of each room that you're supposed to. Just let God work. Go down there, do your thing, sing your songs, see where it goes. And so went down there, shared some songs. You know, it was Jack Ingram, Liz Rose, and Sean Camp.
Good Lord.
And they also brought a guy in by the name of Mitch Ballard.
Okay.
And,
jeez.
And so it was my first time to meet Mitch,
Wow.
my first time to meet Scott. And Scott kept coming to me that week, that we were there. And as I would play a song and he'd look over and go, hey, did you write that? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, man, it's a great song. And then Scott would play something even better than I played. And I'd go, hey, did you write that? And he's like, yeah. And then I'd try to top him every time. And it didn't, no matter how great a song I played, he would play something equally as good, if not better. And they came to my door one night and he said, hey, we're all going out. And I said, man, I'm not going to go out. I got a show tomorrow night after this is done. I've got to leave straight from here and go to sound check. So it's all right with y'all. I'm going to sit this one out. I need sleep, man. I've been on the road all week and then came to this and then got to go back out on the road. So I just want to sleep, not talk to anyone, and just relax. So the next day they awarded the winner, and Scott thought I was going to win, and I thought Scott was going to win, and neither one of us won. And I was like,
Miranda did.
Yeah, I was like, this sucker had the best songs that I've heard in 20 years, and he was thinking the same thing. And little did we know, we thought we went down there to win some crazy songwriter contest, and that wasn't why we were there. We were there to meet each other. And when I left there, called my manager and I said, hey, man, there was one guy that was a phenomenal songwriter and I would love to write with him. His name was Scott. Could you call and see if you could get something set up? And so he said, absolutely. He called me back shortly and said, hey, Scott said he'd love to write with you. This is the date. And so, man, Scott calls me and said, "Hey, man, you ready for our session?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, you got FaceTime or we're going to do a Zoom or something?" He said, "No, man, we don't have very good." He said, "I live in Poetry, Texas.
Yep.
And we don't have real good internet out here." He said, "But we can just write over the phone." This is the first time I had ever written over the phone. It was very strange to me at the time. And he said, "Man, you got any good ideas?" And I said, "I do, man. I got this idea I've been saving for you." I said, it's called Made Home or Made Home. I said, guys, man," I said, and I kind of did the setup for the song. I said, "Guys, we got one fork, one spoon, one knife, one plate, one cup. We're simple. But when a woman gets there, she makes it home.
Mm-hmm.
And she puts a rug over here, and she wants 3 pictures here and 5 candles right here. And it's like it becomes, from a house to a home." And Scott said, "I built the house. You made a home." And we started writing that song that day, and I think we got verse and chorus. And he said, "Hey, man, I got to go. Let's set up. I'll send you some dates, and we'll do another one." So, man, he called me back, and we finished that song. And I think Scott had been in Nashville for 17 years writing it. I don't know if he had ever gotten a major label cut like that, like on, we both got our first major label cut together with Made a Home on the Human album for Kojo.
Right.
So, that was why we were there that day. It wasn't to win a contest. It was to meet Scott and get our first major label cut. And man, from that point, Scott and I started writing so much together and spending a lot of time. If we were out on the road, he would come to Mississippi. I think he showed up in Columbia, Mississippi, and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he would just be out there on the road and go, "Hey, can I come by the show?" And we'd post up in the green room and start writing country music. And, now it's evolved to us spending a week a month in Nashville together and getting some of the biggest bucket list songwriters that you've ever heard of to say yes to writing songs with us.
I've seen the pictures. I've seen the pictures.
They're not crazy. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's like, nuts, right?
I gotta just pinch myself sometime, and I tell Jake, I spend a lot of time down there with Jake Bush as well, and it is crazy to us for these guys to invest their time in us.
Mm-hmm.
But man, not only that, but to come out with such great songs, man. I mean, I used to think that I knew a little something about songwriting until I went down there, and it was a rude awakening for me that you don't know jack about jack.
Mm-hmm.
And I started beating my songs that I had that I thought, man, when we did Blame It on the Music album, I thought, man, it's the best thing I've ever done. And then we did the Sitting Here album, and I thought, man, this is the best thing we've ever done. And then we had the Real Simple Country, and it was great. And then, the stuff that we did with Radney this time, it's like, how are we going to top this?
Mm-hmm.
You really start questioning, man, what are we going to write that tops this kind of stuff? And so, man, as all these demos start pouring in, I'm just over here smiling and going, man, God has shined down on me and just blessed me with a lot of wonderful friendships in Nashville that I never always thought, man, I just want to play some big shows and get a number one song, right? And, man, God's dream was way bigger for me than I ever could have dreamed it. I never could have thought in a million years we'd be playing all of these arenas that we're playing. We played our first stadium this year.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we played the Ryman Auditorium. And I just cried all day.
I bet, man. Holy crap.
Man, I walked up. They gave us a little Jimmy Dickens dressing room and Johnny Cash's dressing room. They gave us 2 dressing rooms, and me being me, I was like, we don't need 2 rooms. We don't want to mess up 2 rooms.
Right.
Just
yeah.
stay over here. And they're like, no, y'all get both these rooms. And so, man, I walked around the corner, and there was a picture of Hank Williams on the wall. And it took me back to singing karaoke before I even knew how to strum a guitar with my uncle and, my dad, and just singing all of our favorite songs. It took me back. And man, I walked back in that room and I picked up my phone and I started reading the text messages, and that was a booby trap, man. I started reading all of that boys, and super proud of you, and we love yous, and just to see all the people that reached out, man, I fell apart, and I was a wreck, and Daniel, my bass player, walked up to me and grabbed my phone, and he was like, "Hey, we're going on in 30 minutes. I need you to get it together.
Yeah. Get your shit together."
So, I was like, okay. And so, that day, man, when I went out there for sound check that day, Scott showed up, and we had wrote a song called "I Woke Up," and it's on my new album. And I played that song that day in sound check, and we had just wrote it the week before, and I started playing it, and I look over, you're looking out in those stained glass windows, all that's just coming in, and you're like, whoa, man, like God's in this room, right? And I didn't know what to play, and that was the first thing that came to mind, and I started playing "I Woke Up," and I look over, and Scott's just bawling, and I went over and hugged him. I said, "Hey, we did it, man. We're playing our songs in the Ryman Auditorium tonight." And he was just, it was a first for him. It was a first for me. And